Men of War number 6, written by Ivan Brandon, art by Tom Derenick. We left off last issue with the Easy Company being taken prisoner by this group of soldiers who seemingly cannot die, or at least immortal in some way. In the end, Sergeant Rock manages to get out of his bindings and gets the upper hand. Easiest way to say it. This issue picks up. He's calling into the army base, and he's basically informing a general, hey, here's all the stuff that's happened over the past 3 issues. What are you going to do to help us? And the general's like, dude, I can't do anything. You left the chain of command, therefore you are an independent. You are on your own. I can't send in anybody to help you. And Rock basically makes this case that we are a group of 6 Americans, hopelessly outpowered by some other entity that's not even human. We don't know what we're even after here, like what the goal was. You got to give us something to work with. Otherwise, you're going to have 6 dead Americans behind lines, and they will find a way to use that against you. So the general tells him, look, the guy's name, if this is who we're thinking of, is Prior Hurst. And they don't know pretty much anything about him, but they know that he's working for somebody, and they're paying him to arm the locals. So the place that they're at is an armory. It is a giant storage of ammunition. And the general, he takes a second after Rock makes more of his case, and he's like, all right, look, if you can tag the building, if you can make it obvious which building you're in from the air, I can have air support there in 10 minutes. And Rock's like, you have people just 10 minutes away? Are you kidding me? He's like, don't give me crap right now. You got 10 minutes. So he takes the guy who was beating the crap out of him last issue. I think he fought in the Napoleonic Wars. And he basically holds him hostage in front of Hurst. And he's like, okay, so here's the deal. You're going to let my guys out or I'm going to shoot your guy. And Hurst is like, okay, yeah, this is my fault. I get it. Anyway, and he shoots the Napoleonic guy. And then we just get into a gunfight between Hurst and Rock, with Hurst not moving like an inch. He's just standing there and the bolts are just missing him. And he keeps firing off at Rock. He gets like a little clip in the shoulder and then a more powerful one shortly thereafter. But Rock manages to land 3 hits dead center in his chest, one of them hitting his heart. But all it does is just knock the breath out of him for a second, but then he's right back up again. And he's like, Rock, you don't understand. War is old, and I am very good at it because of how old I am. And other soldiers, when they lose blood, they die. But me, I never run out. So he makes Rock the deal. Look, I just lost one of my men. I can give you that same level of immortality. I can give you a long life as a warrior. And Rock's just like, this isn't war. That's not what war is. And he's like, war? You don't know anything about war. You don't, like, I've seen wars. I've lived through them all. There's nothing that I don't know about it. So as Rock is sitting there, he's like, no, I'm not going to join you, defiantly. And Hurst just looks disappointed, but then he points his gun at Rock. But before he shoots, Rock yells over to Corporal Corba and tells him, whatever happens, Corba is to take command upon his death. So before Hurst shoots Rock, he walks over to Corba and be like, well, then I guess I'll take care of you, just to show him how futile this is. And Corba lets out that red power energy that he showed off in the other issue. And Hurst genuinely didn't see that coming. And it's a big enough blast that it does actually tag the building simultaneously. So the Air Force, the jets, whatever you want to call it, come flying in, screaming overhead the building. The Easy Company, they all escape. They actually bring out their captors with them. Nobody dies that day, as much as they can help it. And the ammunition storage depot is completely obliterated by these jets. So they get Hurst tied up, and one of the guys, the guy with the scar on his face, the gravedigger from last issue, Rock wakes him up and he's like, yeah, so basically I figured out what you guys were doing. You were just hired to guard over this place. That's all that you were doing this entire time. I don't know how he came to that conclusion, but he says he did. So now that the depot is destroyed, the soldiers have no reason to go after Sergeant Rock and his guys anymore. It's done. They're soldiers. They were given their orders. Now their mission has failed, so they just go back home. And the Gravedigger asks for Sergeant Rock's name, and he gives it. And he's like, I used to serve with the Sergeant Rock in a war a long time ago. Makes me feel young to know you're still out there. And as Rock walks away, leaving the soldiers tied up because they don't want to deal with them anymore, the Gravedigger yells out, like, "You're not alone out there. There were always other teams. I was one of them. This thing was as old before I was born, so watch your back." And that's where it leads off with a full-on the end. And I've paged through the following issues in this, and I think we're done with Sergeant Rock. So overall, I really enjoyed this arc. I think it was a fantastic, just story to tell. They told it very well throughout. It was not overladen with dialogue because it wouldn't make sense. Like, with all the fighting, there wouldn't be that much talking. This isn't a superhero fight with just sharing your master plan as you punch each other. This is straight war, and I really like the way it's represented here. Art-wise, it's been fantastic throughout. I think it's always been Tom Derenick. I'm not sure if there's ever been an issue without him, but he does a great job with just, without any sort of caption boxes or anything, describing what's happening. He just straight up he shows you what happens. Like, this would probably flow just as well for half the action sequences with zero caption or text boxes at all. So overall, the arc as a whole, I give a very high rating to. But this particular issue, I'm going to give a 7.5. The only things that are knocking it down is it just doesn't feel like a completely satisfying ending for Rock as a whole. And if this were continuing, if we do get more of a story, then that's fine. That's entirely fine. But with a big old the end there, I'm going to go ahead and say this is it. So I wish that it was a bit more satisfying in like how we were handling Rock, like wrapping up this story. But as it ends, it's good. It's a good story overall, and I would definitely recommend checking it out for at least those 6 issues. All the backups that I have yet to cover, and the last 2 issues of the series coming up. We'll see if that still manages to stick the landing, but the Sergeant Rock story that makes up the majority, definitely worth the read.